Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be solving LeetCode 1822, sign of the product of an array. So we are given a function, sign function, which takes in one parameter x, which returns 1 if x is positive, -1 if x is negative, and 0 if x is equal to 0. So we're given an array, an integer array, and we need to let the product be the product of all values in the array nums, and we need to return the sign function of the product. So essentially what they're asking for is if the product of all the elements in our array is positive, return 1. If it's negative, return -1. Otherwise, if there's a 0 in there somewhere, right, obviously 0 multiplied by anything is going to be 0, so we return 0. So to solve this, we can do this in O of n time and of linear space, or constant space, I should say. So how can we do that? Well, we can just say we have a sign. We'll initially set it to 1. Now, we can loop through for every num in nums, right? If that num is equal to 0, we know right away, right, that we can just return 0. That's going to be our base case. Otherwise, if the number we are currently at, if it's less than 0, it means it's negative. So what do we do when we run into a negative number, right? Negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a positive will be a negative, right? So the signs are just flipped. So we can just say sign will be equal to the opposite of whatever our current sign is. And that's it. That's all we have to do. Then we can just return sign at the end, right? Because say, we'll run through an example. We'll say if our current number is, we'll say -2, right? It's less than 0. So our sign is already positive, right? And a negative times a positive will be what? It'll be a negative, and that'll flip our sign to be -1. If we run into a positive value, we don't have to do anything. If this is already negative when we run into a positive value, the sign's going to stay negative. If the sign is already positive, we run into a positive value, it'll stay positive. So this is all we have to do. We'll run this, submit, it does pass, and we can go back to the description. And as I said, the time complexity is going to be O of n. We're just looping through every element in our original data structure. And the space complexity is going to be O of 1. We're not using any extra data structures, and that'll do it for LeetCode 1822.